People think success is about winning. They think it's about holding on, about never letting go. But what if I told you, the real art, the real power, comes from losing? Today, we're going to uncover a secret that nobody likes to talk about, how losing can become your greatest strength. The problem most people face is that they're terrified of loss. They avoid it, they fear it, they see it as the end. But the truth is, losing can transform you if you let it. When people hear the word losing, they immediately connect it with failure. They think of doors closing, opportunities disappearing, and dreams fading away. But the truth is, losing isn't the end. It's not the final chapter. Losing is the foundation upon which the greatest things are built. And I want to share with you why. Let me take you back to one of the darkest points of my life. Imagine building something from scratch, pouring your soul into it, devoting years of sleepless nights, and then suddenly being told you're no longer needed. That was me. I was 30 years old, standing outside of Apple, the company I created, the company I gave everything to, and I had just been fired. Think about that for a moment. You spend a decade building your life's work, and in one meeting, one decision, it's taken away from you. It felt like losing everything. But here's what I discovered. Losing is not a wall, it's a floor. It's not the final blow, it's the ground you land on, and from that ground, you can rebuild. The art of losing is about recognizing that when something is taken away, what's left is clarity. You're stripped of all the noise, the titles, the illusions of control. And in that silence, in that emptiness, you find the truth of who you are and what you're meant to create. Most people think winning is about holding on, but that's not true. The secret is this: when you lose, you are forced to let go of everything that isn't essential. Losing becomes a purification. It burns away the unnecessary. It breaks the chains of comfort and security. And what's left is the core, the raw, unshakable part of you that nothing can destroy. When I walked away from Apple, I thought my story was over. But what I didn't realize was that losing Apple gave me something far greater. It gave me freedom. Freedom to experiment again. Freedom to dream without a board of directors telling me I was wrong. Freedom to return to being a beginner. And in that space of loss, I started 2 new companies, NextT and Pixar. NextT would later bring me back to Apple, but Pixar changed the world of storytelling forever. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't lost what I thought I couldn't live without. So when I tell you losing is not the end, I mean it. It's the foundation. Because the truth is, you cannot innovate, you cannot grow, you cannot reinvent yourself if you are clutching so tightly to what you already have. You must be willing to lose. You must be willing to let go, to have it all fall apart, to start again. That's where the art lies. And let me be honest with you. Losing hurts. It breaks your ego. It makes you question your worth. It makes you feel small. But in that breaking, something new is born. Losing teaches humility. It teaches resilience. It forces you to face yourself without the mask of success. And once you've been stripped down to nothing, you realize nothing can stop you anymore. Because if you've already lost it all and survived, what else is there to fear? That's why I say losing is not the end. It's the beginning of a new foundation. Every entrepreneur, every creator, every visionary must face it. The art is not in avoiding loss. It's in embracing it, learning from it, and using it to build something greater than what was destroyed. That's what transforms loss into power. That's what makes losing an art form. Fear. It's the one thing that stops most people from ever discovering their potential. Fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, fear of failure. And let's be honest, fear is powerful. It whispers to you late at night. It paralyzes you when you stand on the edge of risk. It convinces you to play small, when deep down you know you're capable of more. But here's the truth I learned in my darkest moments. You cannot create anything extraordinary if you are chained to the fear of failure. You have to detach from it. You have to stop letting it dictate your moves, because if you don't, it will own you. Think about this. Most people spend their lives avoiding loss. They build their entire existence around the idea of safety, a safe job, a safe investment, a safe path. But safety doesn't build greatness. Safety doesn't ignite revolutions. Safety doesn't create companies like Apple. The very essence of innovation is stepping into the unknown. And the unknown is terrifying if you let fear control you. The irony is, when you're too afraid to fail, you fail anyway. You fail at living fully. You fail at becoming who you could have been. When I was forced out of Apple, I was terrified. Terrified of being irrelevant. Terrified of losing everything I had built. Terrified of being remembered as a failure. That fear almost crushed me. But then something happened. I lost. I actually hit the very thing I feared the most. And do you know what I realized? I survived. The world didn't end. My creativity didn't vanish. My vision didn't disappear. The fear was louder than the reality. The reality was simple. I could rebuild. I could start again. And once I knew that, once I experienced losing and living through it, the fear lost its power over me. That's the secret nobody tells you. Fear only controls you as long as you haven't faced the thing you're afraid of. Once you lose, once you fall, once you break, and you realize you can stand up again, fear doesn't own you anymore. And that's why detaching from the fear of failure is so powerful. Because when you stop fearing failure, you're free. Free to experiment, free to take risks, free to dream bigger than anyone thinks is possible. I often told my team at Apple, if we're not failing, we're not trying hard enough. Because failure is proof you're pushing the boundaries. Failure is evidence that you're going beyond what is safe and comfortable. If you never fail, it means you're living inside a box, following rules someone else has set, never daring to redraw the map. And who wants to live that way? You have one life, one shot, and if you spend it avoiding failure, you never actually live. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you understand that failure is part of the process, not the end of the process. It's like breathing in and breathing out. Success and failure are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. Every time you detach from the outcome, every time you say, I'm going to try, even if I lose, you weaken fear's grip on you. And when fear no longer drives your decisions, something extraordinary happens. You start to make choices from vision instead of insecurity. You stop asking, what if I fail? And you start asking, what if I succeed beyond imagination? Detaching from fear is not easy. Fear disguises itself as logic, as caution, as responsibility. It will tell you that your dream is too risky, that your vision is unrealistic, and that you should be practical. But listen closely. That's not logic. That's fear pretending to be wise. Real wisdom says, yes, you might lose, but you'll gain something far greater. The courage to grow, the courage to create, the courage to live without chains. The art of losing teaches you this lesson in the most brutal way. Once you've lost and survived, fear no longer has the same hold. You realize you're stronger than you thought, more resilient than you imagined, and more creative than fear ever wanted you to believe. The greatest freedom in life is not money, not fame, not power. The greatest freedom is being free from fear of failure. Because then, and only then, you can do the work that truly matters. Then you can innovate. Then you can stand on a stage, risk ridicule, and still share your vision. Then you can build something the world has never seen before. That's what detachment gives you. the freedom to move beyond fear and into creation. There is something most people run from, something they dread, something they bury, something they would rather never experience. That something is darkness. Not the darkness of a room, not the absence of light, but the darkness inside, the silence, the emptiness, the uncertainty that comes after loss. But I want to tell you something that may sound strange. Darkness can be your greatest teacher. When I was fired from Apple, I didn't just lose a job. I lost my identity. For years, I had defined myself as Apple. Every idea, every innovation, every product, my life was tied to it. And when it was gone, there was a void. That void was terrifying. No applause, no stage, no recognition. Just silence. Just the feeling of being invisible. That's what darkness feels like. It strips away everything you thought you were, and it leaves you face to face with yourself. In our culture, we're taught to chase the light, to always look for success, to celebrate victories, to keep the spotlight on. But life is not only made of light. The truth is, the light is shallow without the dark. It's in the dark where you begin to see things clearly. Because when you're stripped of your achievements, your titles, your possessions, you begin to ask the real questions. Who am I when I have nothing? What do I stand for when everything has been taken away? What is left when the world forgets my name? Darkness is uncomfortable because it removes the masks. When the lights are off, there's no stage to stand on, no applause to validate you, no crowd to impress. There is only you. And that's when the real lessons begin. The art of losing is not about celebrating pain. It's about listening to what pain is trying to teach you. Darkness teaches clarity. It teaches humility. It teaches patience. It forces you to confront the illusions you've built about yourself and the world. When I was in that period of exile, I felt invisible. But in that invisibility, I discovered something profound. Without the constant noise, without the constant need to perform, I could think again. I could dream again. I could question again. Darkness gave me the space to reflect. It showed me that I wasn't just Apple. I wasn't just a CEO. I was a creator, a visionary, a builder. And those things didn't disappear because I had lost a title. They were still inside me. That was the lesson darkness gave me. That identity is not borrowed from the world. It is built from within. Most people run from darkness because they confuse it with defeat. But defeat is only permanent if you choose not to rise. Darkness is not defeat. Darkness is a teacher. And its lessons are brutal but transformative. It doesn't whisper, it forces you to listen. It doesn't flatter. It confronts you with the truth. And the truth is, you are stronger than you think. You are more resilient than you've been told. You are capable of rebuilding even after the world has written you off. I want you to imagine this. Imagine being stripped of everything. Your job, your reputation, your security. You're left standing in the dark. At first, it feels like death, but then something begins to happen. You start to see faint outlines of possibility, things you ignored before because you were too busy chasing the light. You see new ideas, new directions, new ways of being. That's the paradox of darkness. It blinds you and then it teaches you to see differently. Not with your eyes, but with your soul. The art of losing is incomplete without learning from the dark. If you avoid the lessons, you repeat the same mistakes. But if you embrace the darkness, you return with clarity. When I came back to Apple, I wasn't the same man who had left. The darkness had shaped me. It taught me to value simplicity, to focus on what truly mattered, to cut through noise and distraction. The iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, they weren't born out of constant light. They were born from years of silence, from lessons learned in exile, from the clarity that only darkness could provide. The truth is, darkness is not your enemy. It is your mentor. It will hurt you, it will humble you, it will strip you of illusions. but it will also refine you. It will sharpen your vision, deepen your creativity, and strengthen your spirit. You cannot avoid it forever. At some point in your journey, you will lose. You will stumble. You will find yourself in the shadows. The question is not if, but when. And when it happens, remember this: darkness is not there to destroy you. Darkness is there to teach you. When you lose everything, you're faced with a choice. You can rebuild from anger, from bitterness, from the need to prove everyone wrong, or you can rebuild from vision. And I'll tell you this, only one of those choices leads to greatness. The other will eat you alive. After I was forced out of Apple, I wanted revenge. I wanted to prove that the board was wrong, that the world was wrong, that I was still the genius they didn't believe in. That was my ego speaking. And ego is a dangerous architect. It builds not for the future, but for applause. It creates not out of love, but out of pride. And if you build from ego, your foundation is already weak, because ego is fragile. It cracks the moment someone doesn't recognize it. It collapses when the world doesn't cheer. But vision is unbreakable. Vision doesn't need applause. Vision doesn't need validation. Vision exists because it must exist. After all, it comes from a deeper place than your pride. At first, I didn't understand this. I threw myself into work with Next-T, and I'll be honest with you, it wasn't easy. We weren't successful in the way Apple had been. We didn't sell millions of computers. But what Next-T gave me was something far greater than profit. It gave me the chance to strip away the ego and rediscover vision. We were building technology that most people couldn't see the value of yet, but I believed in it deeply. And years later, when Apple acquired Next-T, that technology became the foundation of the modern Apple you know today. That's what happens when you build from vision, not ego. The reward may not come immediately, but when it does, it reshapes everything. At the same time, Pixar was being born. And with Pixar, I wasn't building because I wanted to prove myself. I wasn't building because I wanted headlines. I was building because I believed stories could change the world. I believed animation could touch people's hearts in a way no one had seen before. That wasn't ego. That was vision. And it was that vision that gave us Toy Story, the first feature-length animated film created entirely on computers. A film that changed storytelling forever. That's the power of vision. It creates things that outlast you, things that live beyond your name, beyond your pride, beyond your lifetime. You see, ego is about you. Vision is about something bigger than you. When you rebuild with ego, every failure feels personal. Every setback feels like an insult. But when you rebuild with vision, every failure is just a step. Every setback is just part of the path. Ego says, "Look at me." Vision says, "Look at what's possible." Ego dies with you. Vision survives you. And let me tell you something. It is so tempting to rebuild with ego, because the world encourages it. The world tells you, prove them wrong. Show them you're better. Win so that no one can doubt you again. That path is seductive, but it's poison. Because if you spend your life proving others wrong, you'll forget to prove yourself right. You'll forget why you started in the first place. The only way forward, the only way to rebuild after loss, is to return to the vision that pulled you into the fight to begin with. When I returned to Apple, I wasn't there to stroke my ego. I wasn't there to say, "See, you need me after all." I came back because I saw the possibility of creating something insanely great, something that would marry technology and the arts in a way no one had imagined. The iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad, they were not monuments to my pride. They were monuments to vision. They were built for the user, for the dreamer, for the creator, for the everyday person who wanted to connect with the world in a simple, elegant way. That's why they endured. because they were born from vision, not ego. If you're going through loss right now, if you're standing in the rubble of something you built, you must ask yourself, what will you rebuild with? Will you build with ego, chasing validation, chasing recognition, desperate to silence your critics? Or will you build with vision, fueled by something so much larger than yourself that no loss, no failure, no rejection can kill it? The art of losing reveals this choice to you. It tests you. It asks, do you have the courage to set your ego aside and let vision lead the way? I can tell you from my own story, vision is the only answer, because ego fades, pride fades, but vision, real vision, can outlive you. It can transform industries, it can inspire generations, it can leave behind a world that looks different than the one you were born into. That's the legacy of rebuilding with vision, not ego. It is the true art of rising from loss and creating something the world has never seen before. When I look back at my journey, I see that losing wasn't the end. It was the beginning. It was the foundation on which everything else was built. Being stripped of Apple didn't destroy me. It revealed me. It taught me that the fear of failure is an illusion, that darkness can be a teacher, and that the only way to rise again is to build with vision, not ego. The art of losing is not about celebrating pain, but about transforming it. It is about recognizing that loss is a mirror. It shows you who you really are. It removes the layers of pride, it silences the noise of fear, and it leaves you with only what truly matters. And what matters is never the titles, never the applause, never the pride. What matters is the vision that keeps you moving forward, even when the world has turned its back on you. I learned that losing gives you freedom. The freedom to rebuild without fear, the freedom to create without compromise, the freedom to see beyond yourself. And if you embrace that freedom, if you listen to what loss is teaching you, you will discover that what feels like an ending is in fact a beginning. The truth is, everyone in this room, everyone watching this will lose at some point. You will lose jobs, relationships, opportunities, and dreams you thought were certain. But in that loss, you will also find a choice. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can let it feed your ego, or you can let it sharpen your vision. That choice will define not only your success, but your legacy. The art of losing is not about avoiding the dark. It's about learning to see in the dark. It's about realizing that when you have nothing left, you still have yourself. And within yourself, you still carry the power to create, to imagine, to begin again. That is where the real power lies. Not in never losing, but in never being afraid to lose.